Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story time of my former friend being in the occult. In a previous episode, I talked about my father passing away and how Ruby and her mom basically showed up, but they showed up in ways that was kind of suspect. In this video, I'm just going to talk about everything that happened after that. So after hearing about my father passing away, January 17, January 24th, I flew back home to Jersey. So I'm going to start the story time for this particular episode from there. So here it goes. So I fly back home January 24th. January 30th was the day that me and my family laid my father to rest. It was a lot going on during that time, and I do speak about that in the likely story. So if you want to know more about what I was going through during my father's passing and how I was grieving, I would suggest that you watch an unlikely story. So at this time, I'm at home, I'm with my family, and Ruby is calling to check up on me, just to see how I'm doing. Now, here's the thing. As Ruby is calling me to check up on me, she is becoming very, very invasive, just like all the other times, right? Now, there were a couple of phone calls that I had with Ruby during this time that was very off and very invasive. And it was just basically confirming her being a monitoring spirit. And I'm going to talk about those phone calls. So the first phone call conversation I want to talk about is about my older brother. So at the time, me and my older brother, we were the only ones that lived out of state. Okay. And at the same time, too, my brother was in his graduate program at the time. So when it was time to bury my father, me and my brother, we flew back to Jersey. He had to go back because he was in school. So there would be times where Ruby is talking to me on the phone and she would ask, when is your brother flying back, right? So I would say to her, like the first time I said to her, early February, like the first week in February. We probably talked again days later and she would ask, oh, when is your brother flying back? Beginning of February, first week. Kind of already had that discussion with you. And she was like, yeah, but when? Like she wanted to know the day, the actual day that my brother was flying back. And I remember just giving her like, not the runaround, but I just didn't want to give her the exact date because she didn't have to know the exact date that my brother was flying back. So I remember it got to a point where it was actually February and I said, oh, he's leaving this week. Oh, when? Like she wanted to know when my brother was flying back. Like she didn't want to hear, oh, first week of February or the next couple of days. Because I think eventually I said, oh, this week. She didn't want to hear that. She wanted to know the actual date. So it got to a point where I just said Thursday. Now, Thursday wasn't the day that my brother was flying back, but I just said it. So let's just say, for the sake of the story, that Thursday was February 7th. Let's just say that, right? So I remember telling her like Thursday. Then she's like, okay, so he's flying back February 7th. Now, I knew that February 7th wasn't the day. Let's just say the day was February 5th, right? I knew my brother wasn't flying back February 7th. He was flying back February 5th. But I didn't want to tell her because I didn't understand why she felt the need to know the exact day that my brother was flying back. So I was like, yeah. I just said, yeah. And so she left me alone. Like once she got that date, she left me alone. I was like, okay, Ruby is very invasive. Like, I don't know why she keeps doing this. It's kind of getting annoying too at this point. So that's one. The second phone call convo that I had with Ruby that was very, this phone call was actually very telling of Ruby and why she was questioning me a lot during our conversations. So I remember talking to Ruby and I brought up dating. I said to her, man, when I get back to Atlanta, I'm going to be on a dating app. Now, the only reason why I said this was because I was trying to throw her off. I really wasn't going to go on a dating app. I was trying to throw her off because she's always prying into my business, especially when it comes to like relationships. And at the same time, too, This was right after I found out that Brandon had gotten back with his ex-girlfriend. So I kind of was just like saying stuff or whatever. So I remember telling Ruby that when I get back to Atlanta, I'm having thoughts of maybe I should just go on a dating app. Maybe I should just meet somebody, just talk to someone or whatever. I then proceed to say to Ruby, but you know what? Like, I really want to secure a job before I date anyone. Like, it doesn't look right for me to go out dating and going on dates with guys and I don't have a job. Like, it makes me look unserious. Ruby then says, Adriel, that's just stupid. So because you don't have a job, you're not going to date? That's just dumb. Y'all, I remember I was in my room when I was having this conversation with her. Y'all, Ruby had such a big attitude. She was so flustered at the thought of me wanting a job before, I was to date a guy or get into a relationship. She was so mad. And here's the thing with me, especially back then, when a person acts out of pocket and like, especially towards me, I just laugh because in my head, I'm like, what is up with this person? Like, in my mind, it's funny because I'm like, what's up with you? So while she's just like, kind of like showing her aggression towards me in the conversation, I'm in my bed just like laughing in my head, like, this girl can't be serious. But at the same time, I'm just thinking, what is like making her upset? So I'm laughing in my head and even I'm smiling in my room. Then I say to her that I'm like, what's wrong in wanting the job before, being in a relationship? So she just started having that attitude, like, so because you don't have a job, you won't get in a relationship? And I'm like, yeah, because I have bills. Like, I care more about my well-being. I care more about, paying my bills and taking care of myself before getting in a relationship. And I remember just saying to her, like, hey, like, what's wrong with me having that mindset? And I remember she said, well, I remember having a conversation with my mom about it because I used to think the same way too. And she told me that, so because you're not working, you wouldn't be in a relationship. Like, I used to think that way, but it's dumb. It's stupid. Y'all. So I'm in my room thinking, what is up with this girl? And not only that, I'm thinking, why does she feel entitled to my love life? Like, she was so flustered that I didn't want to date anybody because I was thinking about, getting a job first. She was so flustered. And in my head, I'm like, for her to be so flustered, she feels so entitled to my love life. Why does she feel so entitled? So that made me think too, back to our conversations. I remember saying the same thing to her back at Juicy Crab. Like, hey, I want to get a job first before getting into a relationship. So that let me know, like, hey, back then when she was asking me, she wasn't asking me because she was concerned as a friend or she just wanted to know as a friend, how I'm doing. She was asking because she had some type of motive. For her to be so flustered with the fact that I didn't want to date, it's like, why are you mad? Why do you feel so entitled to my love life? Is there something that you're not telling me, Ruby? Like, I didn't understand. So that was something I thought was very weird. Now, the third convo I had with Ruby while I was at home, y'all. So while I was at home, I remember, I'm talking to Ruby, and in one of our conversations, she tells me that her and her sister, they're going to Maryland for spring break. So when she said it to me, I was like, oh, you guys are going to Maryland. Well, Ruby, you're going to have to get a lot of like jackets and coats because it's cold in Jersey. Like, my father's funeral, it was like 23 degrees, y'all. It was super cold. So I remember just telling her like, hey, Ruby, make sure you guys get a bunch of sweaters, bunch of jackets, coats. Make sure you bundle up because it's really cold down here. So Be prepared, right? She starts laughing. So the day before she was scheduled to fly out to Maryland, I messaged her. Actually, no, not the day before. I think the day of. Yes. The day of her flight, I messaged her and say, hey, hope you guys have a safe flight. Hope you enjoy your spring break, right? She responds and says, thank you. Probably like a week later or 2 weeks later, I reach out to her and I say, hey, how was your spring break? Did you enjoy Maryland? This is what she says to me. She says, yeah, so we ended up not going to Maryland. Me and my family, we actually went to Disneyland in Florida. Now, y'all, when she said that, it reminded me of the whole Oakwood situation. But in this case, I remember thinking, Ruby was the one who brought the information to me. I never asked Ruby what she was doing for spring break. She took it upon herself to say, hey, me and my sister are going to Maryland for spring break. And I was like, oh, Maryland's going to be super cold. It's cold down here, yada, yada, yada. Y'all, Ruby knew she wasn't going to Maryland. Nobody just decides to go to Disneyland like at a drop of a dime. That's something that you plan ahead. So when she was telling me that her and her sister are going to Maryland, she already knew that her and her family were going to Disneyland in Florida. So why make up this fake spring break vacation in Maryland with her sister? Why do that? Especially for the fact that I never asked. So in my head, I'm like, what's wrong with Ruby? Like, what's wrong with this girl? It's like, what is possessing her to come up with stuff? Like if I was in her business and she didn't want me to know and she made up this whole Maryland vacation, that's different. But it's like, girl, I didn't even ask you. You just came to me with this information that you're going to Maryland for a spring break, but you lied about it. At this point, y'all, at this point in 2021, I didn't understand her angle. Why are you just making up stuff? Now, I will say this too, and this is something that I realized later on. People that have monitoring spirits, y'all, they are going to make stuff up to you. Like they will tell you they're going left, but they're really going right. And the reason why they're doing that is because they're paranoid, because they know what they're doing with the information that people tell them. So they're paranoid that someone's going to take their information and do what they're doing to people. So this is why people who have monitoring spirits, they will tell you one thing and do a whole other thing. So you really want to be careful with these people. In all honesty, you really want to stay away from these people. Okay. So those were the conversations I was having with Ruby during my time at home. Now, fast forward to March 7. March 7, I fly back to Atlanta. March 11, I pay Ruby back her money. She lended me $500 back in 2020 to pay my rent. I gave her back her money. I want to say it was either the next day or that same day, I received a text message from her mother. And in the text message, she says, oh, welcome back. Now, I'm like, how did her mom know that I was back? Now, here's the thing. I did tell Ruby that I was flying back March 7 because Ruby was there when I bought my ticket. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe Ruby told her mom that I was back. She probably told her mom that I paid her back her money. Maybe that's the case. I want y'all to remember this because it comes back later on in the story. So fast forward to April, y'all. Fast forward to April. I want to say this was the beginning of April. One night in April, in April, I go to sleep. In the morning, I have a dream. Between that night and that morning, I have a dream. And I'm going to tell you the dream. In the dream, I was in a house. Now, in the dream, this house belonged to me and my family, but it didn't look like our real life family house. Okay. So in the dream, this house, it was my family's house. And there was a bunch of people who were there. So there were people who were outside of the house, and it was late at night. So it kind of seemed like we had this gathering in the house. It was Ruby, her mom, and some other people outside. They were gathered outside. Okay. Now, in this scene of the dream, I'm in the house and my mom is also in the house. She's in the kitchen. She's like either washing her hands or like washing dishes. All I know is that there's water running from the sink and she has her hands in there and she has soap in her hands. Across from her is me sitting on a dining table. I'm sitting on this round dining table and I was reading a magazine. And the reason why I was sitting there reading the magazine was because I was waiting for my mom to be done with the kitchen because I think I wanted to do something with her or for her or something like that. But all I know is that I was sitting on this dining table waiting for my mom to be done. So I'm sitting on the dining table. I'm reading this magazine. As I'm reading the magazine, I hear my mom say, "Ruby is jealous of you and she doesn't hide it." Immediately my mom said that. I remember looking up, so I'm no longer reading the magazine. I look up to her, facing her, and then my mom turns her face my way and she's staring at me. Now we're both looking at each other, but I'm looking at my mom with disbelief, like, what? Like, no, there's no way that Ruby will be jealous of me. No way at all. Like, I'm looking at my mom shocked. The next thing you know, I remember leaving that dining table and I go outside. I see Ruby and her mom, and they are just talking to me, just being so joyful around me, being so like, just really being in my face like they like me. But as I'm talking to them and them just acting like they really want to talk to me and be around me and just like they really like me, I'm thinking about the information that my mom just gave me at that time. And that was the end of the dream. So I wake up and I'm thinking about the dream. As I'm thinking about the dream, I'm like, no, there's no way. Like, how can Ruby be jealous of me? Now, here's the thing, y'all. Even though I felt like Ruby was a monitoring spirit because she was prying into my business, I never got jealous vibes from Ruby. I never felt like she wanted my life or anything like that. And also, too, you got to remember, at this time, I was in the wilderness. So I was broke, unemployed. My father passed away. Like, things were not really looking good in my life at that time. So why would Ruby be jealous of me? It just didn't make sense. But then again, y'all, I knew something was off with Ruby. I knew something was off. I just didn't know it was jealousy. So I'm trying to like wrap my brain around the fact that how is she jealous of me? She got more money than me. She has more opportunities than me. I'm the only person in Atlanta. She has family and friends in Atlanta. Like, how? I just don't see how she will be jealous of me. But having that dream, it kind of brought some light to the fact of there being something off about Ruby. And I just couldn't place it in those previous years. So I was like, okay, you know what? I know that the Lord speaks to me, in my dreams, especially back then. I knew that the Lord would speak to me through my dreams. I'm going to take what the Lord is saying because I know the Lord was speaking to my mom. Like, the Lord was speaking to me through my mom in the dream. So I said, okay, I'm going to take this information. I'm going to receive it. I still don't understand how she's jealous though, but I'm going to receive it. And because I know she's jealous, I do have to tread lightly with her. So I was treading lightly with her because I believe she had a monitoring spirit. So now it's like, okay, at this point, I have to tread lightly with her because the Lord is letting me know that she's jealous of me. Probably 2 weeks later, y'all, we're still in the month of April, right? 2 weeks later, I believe this was April 20 something, one of those days, right? Ruby calls me. I'm like, hey, Ruby. Now, this time it had been quite a while since I heard from her. So we're talking, and I think she was telling me she had just left church or whatever. So she's like, yeah, so Adria, I'm calling you to let you know that I'm moving to Texas. And I'm like, what? She was like, yeah, my sister got a summer internship over there. So she has to be in Texas. I think it was for like 6 to 8 weeks. She has to be there. So I just decided to tag along. So I was like, oh, okay. So are you going to stay there even after? Because at this point, her sister was going to be a senior in college. So she was going to do the summer internship and then get into her senior year of college, then graduate. So her sister was only going to be there for those 8 weeks or so. So I said to her, like, hey, are you going to stay, after those 8 weeks or so? And she said, well, the purpose of this trip is for her to like experience living outside of Georgia, because she's lived in Georgia her entire life. Like, she just wants to experience how it's like. And if she likes it, she will stay. If she doesn't, she can always come back home. Then I was like, okay, that's dope. I'm like, okay, cool. So she told me that she was leaving next month, which was May. Yeah. So she's like, no, she didn't say next month. She told me I'm leaving in 6 weeks. Yes. So she says I'm leaving in 6 weeks. So they had gotten a place in Texas that they were going to stay in. And so, yeah, so she told me she was moving in 6 weeks, and she wanted to let me know she definitely wants to see me before she moves. And I'm like, yo, definitely, I want to link up with you before you move. We end the conversation. After we ended the conversation, I remember thinking to myself, like, man, I just had a dream a couple weeks ago that she was jealous of me. Now I'm getting a phone call that she's moving to Texas. Is there any correlation, Lord? Is there any correlation? You know? So fast forward to, you know what? Actually, I'm going to stop the episode right here because it's kind of long. I'm going to stop the episode right here. Next episode, I'm going to talk about all the other things that happened in 2021, her move, and something very suspect she did in 2021. So if you're liking this story time, please like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have not watched An Unlikely Story, I would advise that you do. And until next time, y'all. Bye.